Hello and welcome back to the sixth and final stage of the builder's journey. If you've been with us from the beginning as we've walked through stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then thank you for sticking in there. You've been a trooper. I hope you've been getting immense value as we've gone through the journey that every business goes through from soil to flourish. Today we're going to wrap up with the sixth stage, the flourishing stage. If you are new to this channel and you have not seen the previous 5 videos, I would suggest that you pause right here and go back and take a look at the first 5 videos so that you can be caught up to speed, because they help to set a foundation for what we're going to talk about today. You've worked, you've built, you've stretched, you've grown, and now you've arrived at what you once only dreamed about. The clients, the consistency, the team, the revenue, it's all here. This is the flourish stage. But here's the thing, flourishing isn't something that is passive. You don't coast in this stage, rather you cultivate. Because the same soil that grows fruit is also the same soil that will grow weeds if left unattended. And I can testify to that. I have been sharing as we've been going through this journey that I'm doing some gardening. And I can tell you from experience that that same soil that will give you some luscious tomatoes and fragrant Thai basil is also the same soil that's going to give you some weeds if you're not taking care of it. This is the season where your business is stable. You've got systems in place. You're no longer hustling for every dollar. You're leading with strategy and clarity. You're finally operating in your zone of genius. Your team is aligned. Your clients are being served well. You have time to think, rest, and dream. But this stage also brings new questions. It's true that you've answered some questions in the previous stages, but what you should begin to see is that each stage of business that you go through, it also suggests new questions that needs your answers, such as, what's next? How do I sustain what I've built? And how do I make sure I don't lose myself now that I've made it? Flourishing is a beautiful thing, but it still needs you to give some attention to it. I want to give you this warning, and here it is. Success is a test, and it whispers temptations the valley never did. Sometimes when you're on the mountaintop, it can be very easy to get so excited about where you are that you forget that even a mountaintop experience is still a testing experience. And I want to draw a story, an illustration from the Bible. You find it in 2 Samuel chapter 11, and it's a story of King David. I believe the story perfectly illustrates what we're going over today. The Bible says this about David. It says, in the spring when kings go off to war, David remained in Jerusalem. He stayed back, and that's when he saw Bathsheba. Now, when you hear those words about in the spring when kings go off to war, that David stayed in Jerusalem, you may not get the full weight of what it's saying. But in the springtime, that's when kings go to war, and David is a king. So really and truly, David should have gone off to war, but instead, he chose to stay back in Jerusalem. And that's when he saw Bathsheba, as I said before, and that decision to stay back, that would haunt him for the rest of his life, and not just his life, but also the lives of his children. If you know the story, you know some crazy thing happened in David's family. But here's what I want you to focus on. You see, it wasn't that David was weak per se, or that he was just lazy and he said, I'm not going to go to war. Rather, David was lulled into complacency. You see, before this point, David had known war for most of his life, right? David was always on the run from King Saul. He was always fighting against an army. David did not have an easy life. And now David had come to the place in his journey where Israel, the nation that he was king over, was experiencing some prosperity. Things were good. Things were looking up. They weren't at war with anyone. Things were peaceful. And in that moment of peace, in this sense of being successful, and he's reigning in Jerusalem, David got too complacent. He got too comfortable. He began to relax his guard. And the same thing can happen in business. You stop doing what made you great. You get lax with your boundaries. You delay hard decisions. You lose hunger. The flourishing stage is not just a gift, but it's also a responsibility. And it is a test to see what are we going to do with the success that has been granted to us. What are we going to do with all the flourishing that we are experiencing? I want to talk about the real markers of flourishing, because at this stage, the question isn't so much, am I winning, but rather, what's the cost of my win? Is your family flourishing as well as your business is? Are your health, values, and peace of mind intact? Are you still living the life you dreamed of, or just managing the machine that you built? How is it with you and yours? Flourishing isn't just financial. I need to say that again, because I promise you, many of us think that flourishing is only about the number. And notice I didn't say finances does not come into it at all, but it's much more than that. It's about whole life fruitfulness. And here's the truth. True success that doesn't cause you to flourish in all areas of your life is really failure in disguise. Because we're not one-sided individuals. We can't compartmentalize, okay, I'm doing very good in business, but my family is just messy and I'm still okay, I'm still successful. No. How you are in one area of life is how you'll be in every area of life. And so when we think about success and flourishing, we're talking about whole person flourishing and not just in one area. So here's what you need to focus on during this flourishing stage. This is a season for you to revisit the vision. Remember, in the seed stage, we talked a little bit about what the success looked like for you. We talked about defining that. And in order to do that, we talked about the ideal business snapshot. Well, this is where that comes back now. And you begin to look at it and you ask yourself some questions. Does the life I'm living now match the picture or the vision that God gave me, that I wrote about in that ideal business snapshot? Have I become who I wanted to become in this process? Or perhaps have I become someone that I don't even recognize, or maybe my children don't recognize? What needs to be refined before I expand again? This isn't the time to coast, as I said previously. It's the time to deepen your roots and lead with intention so you can have even greater impact in the areas of life that truly matters. Here's what to focus on during the flourishing stage. Number one, maintain strong systems. Don't assume they'll run forever without some inspection. Revisit your ideal business snapshot. Success evolves. What you were aiming at might change now that you have greater information and you've become even more than what you were before. You want to evaluate your role. Are you sure you are where you are adding the most value? Reassess your legacy goals. What's that long-term vision looking like? What's the impact that I'm going to leave when it's time for me to move on? And you want to pour into your team, because leadership isn't just about delegation. It's also about development. Reconnect with your why, especially when profit is no longer the driving force. And you want to also ask, what is God inviting me to do in this season? Is he asking me to multiply? Is he asking me to sustain? Or is he asking me to release? Am I to multiply? Am I to build another business? Am I to go even bigger than where I am? Or is he just calling me to sustain the level where I am now? Or perhaps he's telling me that it's time for me to release and to walk away from that, from what I'm doing. This is the stage for sharpening and not really settling. But with every stage we've spoken about previously, you know that there are pitfalls. You know that there are things that you should avoid. And I want to dive into some of those right now. Number one, you want to avoid and watch out for getting comfortable and neglecting growth. Just sitting on your laurels, I've made it. Everything that is living always grows. So you always want to be in that process of refining and improvement and developing yourself. Number two, you want to avoid drifting from your values now that the pressure is off. Maybe in the beginning there were things that were non-negotiables for you, things that you held dear and sacred. There were lines you would not cross. And now you find yourself second guessing those things. Maybe you're not operating in integrity in the way that you once did before. Be careful. Number three, you want to avoid assuming that your current level of success is sustainable without recalibration, without innovation, without re-engineering some things. And you also want to avoid failing to build a succession plan or the next season, preparing someone for the next season. And I think I want to pause right here to just hammer this point home a little bit more. I want to talk a little bit about some founders and business owners that have what is called the founder syndrome. We're talking about individuals that are brilliant and they have built something that's been just phenomenal, amazing. And the business comes to a place in its existence where it is needful for new leadership to come in and to take it to the next level. And the founder may even recognize that, but they hold on with a death grip because they're afraid that if they let go, if they even talk about succession, that they are going to lose their place and their identity that is so wrapped up in what they've built. And I just want to encourage you that if you're a business owner like that, if you're a founder like that, you need to recognize that none of us have all the skill sets and abilities that are needed. I don't care who we are, none of us have it. And there are times when we have brought something as far as we can bring it. It's not a sign that you've lost your edge if you say to yourself, you know what? I have done the best that I can, and I need to make room for the next phase, the next leader. I need to begin to plan for that. I need to select someone and I need to empower them so that they can carry on the torch, so they can run well the next leg of this race. I believe that if founders can really adopt that, it would really be a game changer. So I'm going to leave that there and I'm going to continue on right now. I want you to remember this as we talk about pitfalls. That fruit that isn't harvested eventually rots. And I'm telling you, I'm a witness of that too, because we had these luscious tomatoes in the garden. And because we were not out there as diligently as we should be, when I went out there after maybe a day or two, there were some tomatoes that had started to rot on the vine. It was painful. So I want you to remember that the fruit must be harvested. And success that isn't stewarded can easily slip through your fingers. Now, here's an honest reflection that I want to share with you. I don't know many entrepreneurs that are truly living in the flourish stage. I don't know many. Notice I didn't say that I don't know any, but I don't know many that are truly living in the flourish stage. And here's why. I've seen moments, glimpses of it, but not many who've built a business that is thriving, that hasn't in the process sacrificed their health, their family, or even their faith. And that's not a criticism, it's a caution that there are pitfalls to success that we want to be mindful of. Because flourishing takes more than hustle or smarts. It requires surrender, it requires intentionality, and it also requires alignment. This stage invites you to ask some deeper questions as you are going through it. Who have you become on your rise to the top? Do you even recognize yourself anymore? Have you traded anything that's not worth the price? And what do you need to reclaim so that you can finish well? You see, when you really grab hold of this flourishing stage, you stop chasing more and you start choosing better. You move from grasping to gratitude, from doing to designing, from leading for profit to leading for purpose. You realize success isn't the end game. It's just a new beginning, and you're entrusted to steward it well. So I want to leave you with something practical, because I've said over and over, I love to make things actionable. I want you to think about this question. What does flourishing really mean for you in life and in business? I want you to take 10 minutes this week to journal on that. And also, I want to give you some bonus questions to think about. What's working? What needs protecting? What needs pruning, even in the stage where you are now? You see, the flourishing stage, as I've mentioned, it's really about stewardship. You've built something good, but now you must sustain it and lead it like it's the blessing that it is. And to help you to do that, I've created the free Builder's Blueprint. You can grab it in the description below. There'll be a link there. It will give you tools and resources to navigate whatever season of business that you're in. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, continue to build and continue to become.